Welcome back in this session. So AWS EBS volume type. So we will going to deep dive the volume type in this session. So we will see the different volume type along with the demo section, how we can configure the volume type in the console. So let's start. So the first we will discuss about the general purpose SSD, and this is the GP2. The volume API name is the GP2. So let's try to understand what is this about GP2. So GP2 basically use and recommend for the most common workload, and this basically gives the balance, price, and the performance for the widely variety of the different most workload. Uh, it's basically used for the system boot volumes. It can be also used for the virtual desktop and installing the database also. This gives the very low latency here, and that's why it says the most workload here. The storage capacity of 1 gig to the 16 TB. So the range of the capacity 1 gigabytes to 16 terabytes, and the small GPU volume can burst IOPS to 3000, and the max IOPS capacity is 16,000. So this all information for the general purpose SSD. Let's try to configure this volume type in the console. So I'm just moving to the console, and in the console, easy to console under the elastic block store. In a volume, we'll create the create volume here. So you see here, so this is GP2 here. So this is general purpose SSD, and the size, gigabit size is 100. It's a default one, and here you can see the 1 gig is the minimum, and 16 terabyte is the 16 terabyte is the maximum. So here the 16,384 is the gigabytes. So in the convert is the 16 terabyte. So this is the size and the IOPS here. So one IOPS will basically convert to the 1 gig convert to the 3 IOPS. If you see here, so 100 gives a 300. So minimum is 1. If you see here, if I give the 1, so minimum IOPS is 100, it will give the 100. In even you give the lesser than, and in case of 150, it will give the 450. So it will calculate 1 gig to the 3 IOPS. So at max, while giving the 1000, it will create the 3000. If you see here, so 3000 is the baseline, and once we give the full, so 16,384, so this will give the 16,000 IOPS. So this is the different configuration for the IOPS and size, where you can use this range 1 gigabit to the 16 terabits, and the IOPS will be basically calculated with the 1 gig with the 3 IOPS. So this basically configures. The rest is the ability zone and snapshot ID and the encryption, so that we can take a default one. Let's move for the next volume type. So we miss the 3 IOPS per second, so that's we already discussed, no problem. And let's move for the IO01. So IO01 is provisional IOPS SSD. This is again the SSD types, and this gives the highest performance for the different volume types. So this is basically used for the critical business application that require sustainable the IOPS performance. So very low latency and high throughput here. So large database workload it can handle, such as the MongoDB, Cassandra, Microsoft SQL, and MySQL Server, Postgres Server, and Oracle. So this kind of bigger server database it will can handle a workload, because this give the highest IOPS performance over here. So the size is the 4 gig to the 16 TB. The IOPS provisional, that's a minimum is 100, and maximum it gives the 64,000. The maximum ratio of provisional IOPS to request volume size is 50 to 1, that we'll see in the configuration portion. So let's move. Okay, so now I'm changing to the GP to the IO1 here. So here you can see the size is a 4 gig to the 16 terabyte, and the IOPS here is the 100. So here the earlier it was, let me cancel this one. Let me create the new one from the fresh, and I'm just creating the IO01. So this will give the default configuration. So 100 gigabits will give the 3000 IOPS. That's a default one. So while we change, so basically this relation between the IOPS and gigabit size is the 50 times the more. So if we take the example here, I'm just updating here 10, so it will create the 250. So while we change to the one with the 500, so this will basically give the match the ratio 1 with the 50, so it won't give any configuration error while we change to the 600, because this will change to the 50 1 ratio. That's a 50 times more with the single. So size can be mapped with the 50 times more. The IOPS here it's not mapping. So if we give the 500, so that's okay. That's 50 times more. But while change the immediately, it will show the error here. So you can change the you can pass the combination of individual of the size and IOPS with the IO01. That's a provisional IOPS, but you just have to make sure that it should be match the ratio of the 50 times more. So let's move for the next volume type. So the next volume type is ST1. Basically this is the throughput optimized hard drive, and this gives the low cost hard drive volume, and basically designed for the frequently access. So where is the frequently access and low cost hard drive? Let's see the details of this volume type. So this is basically based for the streaming workload, require consistent and the fast throughput at the low price. This is the low price, it's not load, so it's a type of mistakes. So basically this is based for the streaming workload and for the continuous requirement and fast throughput with the low price. The next point is it's suitable for the big data analysis, data warehouse and log processing units. So the such application can take these benefits of this particular volume type while using the big data analysis with the higher data volumes. The example is Apache Kafka. That's the best application can be used. Cannot be boot volume. So since this is having the hard drive volume and it's designed for the frequently access, but this is not ideal for the boot volume to store here as a OS. The size of the 50 gigabits to the 60 terabytes. Max IOPS it's give the 500 IOPS. And max throughput it's give the 500 Mbps per second. So let's see the configuration for the ST1 in the console. I'm just doing the cancel this one and create new. We want to take the ST1, that's a throughput optimized. This is ST1. So here you can see the size, the default one is 500, and you can take the minimum is 125 gig and the 16 terabytes. So this is a configuration. You can change here. So here you will change the throughput here based on your gigabits configuration. So baseline throughput is 40 Mbps, and the base minimum configuration is 125. That's a 5 Mbps is the base, and the same is if we give the full throughput, that's a 16 terabyte 384. So this will give the all max throughput. So this is a base configuration how we can configure the throughput optimized hard drive. That's a ST1. Let's move further for the next volume type. So the next volume type is the SC1. So SC1 is a cold hard drive. So this basically used for the throughput oriented storage for the large volume of data that basically having the access of the infrequently, not the use the regularly. So this having the some time pose access. So the scenario where the lowest storage and low cost important is here. So this is the best use case for this volume. Cannot be boot device as like the previous one. The size of the 500 gig to 16 TB. So the max IOPS is the 250. So the ST1 was the 500, but this SC1 is the 250 max IOPS. Max throughput of is the same again, so 250 Mbps. The ST1 having the 500 Mbps. So let's move for the demo for the SC1. So I'm just doing cancel this one. Let me create the SC1 here. So this is a cold drive. The minimum is 125. The maximum is a 16 TB, and here you can see the baseline. That's a 12 Mbps with the 500 gig. Let's change to the 125 gig, and you can see it's the 2 Mbps. And if we give the 16,380 power, that's a 16 TB. So here you will get the 192, that's a 250 out of 250. So basically it will change as per your information provided with the size in terms of the size for you defined by the cold hard drive, and this is same configuration as your ST1. So let's move further. Okay, so this we have seen the all different types of volume. So let's try to understand the summary for the all volume types. So first one is the GP2 general purpose volume type. That's a basically cheap 3 IOPS per gigabits. The minimum is 100 IOPS. The burst level is 3000 IOPS, and max IOPS is 16,000. 1 gig to 16 TB, that's a storage, plus 1 gig it will add the 3000 IOPS. So that's we already seen in the demo section. IO01, the provisional IOPS, basically this is the expensive, minimum 100 IOPS, maximum is 64,000 IOPS in the Nitro, and the normal is 32,000. 4 gig to 16 terabytes. The size of volume and volume are basically volume and IOPS are basically both are independent, but here to make a ratio. The next one is the ST1, that's a throughput optimized hard drive. The storage is 500 gigabits to 16 terabits, and 500 Mbps is the throughput. And the last one is the SC1, that's a cold hard drive that is used for the infrequently accessed data, and there is some degrade, and this is 250 gigabits to 16 terabytes, and 250 Mbps per second is the throughput. So this is all about the EBS volume, where you can use with the different scenario based on your application, deployment and use case.